Hey there, I'm Richy, and in today's video, we're going to be checking out the CM05 Glass Mousepad from Attack Shark. This pad was recommended to me by someone in the comments, but I have been on the hunt for a pad that's always in stock and available anywhere in the world, just so I can recommend a pad that is not a limited edition one. So, without further ado, let's get into the review. Before I get to the unboxing of the CM05, I did want to show where you can pick up this mouse pad. First and foremost, of course, you can pick it up on the Attack Shark website. They're offering the black, white, and this wave shark color pattern for $88.75 Canadian. But if you did want to pick it up on Amazon, you can do so, which is where I got mine, for $89.99, and they come in black or the white option. I really like how it's on Amazon because I'm able to pick it up from anywhere in the world, and I hope you are as well, so that's a big plus for them. But let's move on to the unboxing now. Alright, so this is the Attack Shark X Magnasnake CM05 Glass Mousepad. Alright, it is taped down. Let's take this off, take that off. It seems to be only the pad in the box, so yeah, there's the unboxing. Alright, so here we are with the CM05 on my desk now, and let's get into the dimensions of it. So it's coming in at 400 by 450 by 5 millimeters, which is my thickest pad, and I'm definitely able to notice the edge of the pad because it's not rounded and I don't keep my pads on the edge of my desk. So being at 5 millimeters definitely isn't a strong suit of it. Moving past that though, it does have a leather PU base, which is really sticky, I have to admit. When it's on my desk, it is not moving like at all. I have to really push it to move it, but if it's on my desk, it is solid, if you can tell by everything shaking. Now, I do want to mention I like to do a 5 to 10 minute close inspection of all my pads, every single one, cloth or glass, just to check for any scratches, any chips, or anything like that. And I did notice something. This pad is actually very slightly warped. In the top left here and in the bottom right here, I'm able to notice it like wobbles a little. It's kind of like folded in, but it is not at all warped to the point where it interferes with my gaming. I'm still able to play like how I usually play on any mouse pad. The only thing is when I'm just not using it for games, I'm able to notice up in the top left here, there's a little wobble to my mouse, but then going back to the middle, there's no wobble. That's really it. Before I get to any comparisons with the CM05 and my other glass pads, I did want to do a little bit of housekeeping and also give you guys a general understanding of how this mouse pad feels underneath the mouse. So, the two mice I'm going to be using during my testing are the Fenrir Asim from Gwolves and also the VUK from Gwolves. So, the Fenrir Asim is running these Ultra Silencer mouse skates from Ultra Glide, and they're like balanced to fast skates, more smooth than they are slow, and I'd say they're similar to something like Jades, not the Jade Pros, but the regular Jades. And then the VUK is running the Ultra Glide Ultra Control mouse feet, which in my opinion are pretty similar to the Obsidian Pros. They are a very controlled mouse skate, and you can definitely feel some of that texture. So now testing these mice, of course the control one goes a little bit, or it goes definitely less far than the ultra silencers, and the ultra silencers, if you can hear, they are definitely quieter than the ultra control skates. So here we are with our first comparison, the SB004, and I believe that this pad is probably going to be the most well-known, so that's why I'd like to compare it against the CM05. So first things first, the size of the SB004 is slightly bigger, coming in at 430 by 490 millimeters, and it's also slightly thinner, I believe around a millimeter thinner, because there is definitely an elevation change here. But regarding the fine textures of the pads, here's a close-up of each of the pads. But when using each of the pads outside of games at least, they feel very, very similar. With the SP004 and the CM05 right next to each other, you can't really tell that there's a difference. The only thing that I'm noticing here and also in my testing is that the SP004 does get slightly more control under the same amount of pressure applied. But in game, comparing the SP004 to the CM05 was pretty difficult in a sense that they are super similar. Using both the pads one after another, it was hard to get a sense of which one was really different, but the only thing, like I said, out of the game is that you do get a little bit more control on the SP004, and I think that's because it's uncoded. So now our second comparison is to the Beast Pad by Tekusai. This pad is definitely one of the faster pads. I think it's Tekusai's second fastest pad underneath the Phantom. But here with them next to each other, the few things I can notice is on the skin, the Beast does have more texture to it versus the CM05. And underneath a mouse, the Beast is definitely faster. Like, you can definitely notice there is a change in speed when using the two. You do get slightly more control just in the general ends when using the CM05, but I personally love speed and testing my own limits, so that's why I go with faster and faster pads. Some physical qualities, the Beast is larger. It is coming in at 500 by 450 millimeters, and it has only 2.5 millimeters in thickness. Well, you know about the CM05, so that is something to care about, I'd say. But for a pad that you can get on Amazon versus a limited edition pad, the CM05 is really good. It has a good amount of size. But now let's take these pads in the game. Going back and forth between these two pads in game, the Beast is definitely a faster pad, and I am noticing I have to be a little bit more locked in, but when I am, it feels like much more effortless of a glide versus on the CM05. To my liking, it is a little bit slow, but it is definitely not too slow to use. There is one cool thing though, with the CM05, it seems like its temperature is much more stable, probably because it's a thicker piece of glass, but when I'm resting my arm just on the pad, maybe between lives or something in a game, I'm noticing it's easier to slide my arm around on the CM05 from not moving it at all versus on the Beast, where temperature, because I guess it is a thinner pad, it heats up more under my arm, and it seems that I have to keep my arm moving to keep that skin stickiness down. Now, if I had to recommend the CM05 to anybody, I would be able to recommend it to people just getting into Glasspads, and that would be for 3 reasons. The first being, it's not too fast. It's definitely on the faster end of a balance pad, but it's very similar to something like this SP004, which is very commonly anybody's first glass pad. The second reason I'd recommend is actually the coating. For glass pads, it might be a little daunting to have to clean it with soap and water, but with the coating, you can just use water, and with a little bit more scrubbing, anything will come off, at least anything that I've found. And the last reason, the price. It is definitely one of the cheaper glass pads, under $100 even without the sale price, so that is a pretty good thing. Now, where it cooked and where it crumbled. Along with everything else that glass pads do really well in, the CM05 I think specifically cooked in, first and foremost, the price. For $89 and a feeling that is very similar to the SP004, this is a very competitive pad. And I understand it doesn't come with anything like a microfiber cloth, but I'm pretty sure nowadays everyone would have a microfiber cloth. And another way that it cooked is, I have to say, the coating. This really shocked me because I've been trying to stay away from coatings as they could scrape off over time, but with the CM05, I noticed that the coating really does help me with how long I can play on this pad. It does compare and live up to some pads like the Beast or the Phantom in terms of skin stickiness, and it's shocking to see a pad at such a low price with such a high quality feature. And now, where it crumbled. For my copy of the CM05, like I mentioned before, it did arrive warped. Thankfully, it wasn't too warped where I can't use the pad, but in the times where I'm using it for schoolwork, I can definitely notice there is a little bit of elevation. And then another place that I feel that it crumbled is in the thickness of the pad. Coming in at 5mm in thickness, it is my thickest pad. And if you're anything like me and you don't like to keep your pads on the edge of the desk, then those 5mm will be noticeable if you're moving your arm up and down the pad. In the last place where I find that it crumbled is in the size. While it might not be too small for everyone, I tend to use pretty large pads, and I have found myself on the CM05 coming off the top of the pad if I'm doing a high flick or a vertical flick. And plus the 5mm, it definitely is more noticeable doing that on the CM05 than on some other pads. For my final thoughts on the CM05, I'd have to say it's a good pad. It's not great, but it's not bad. It sits in the middle in almost all categories, and I can just recommend it to anybody trying to get into the niche. The one thing I am a little annoyed about is that my copy is warped, but with any mass-produced item, there's bound to be a few errors, and I'm just happy that I got it rather than one of you guys getting it. Anyways though, that is everything I have to say about the CM05. The links for it will be in the description below if you wanted to pick it up. Here's some more videos YouTube thinks you'll like, hopefully by me, but have a great rest of your week, and ta-ta for now.